Did you know you can support the Technology Show when you shop at Amazon.com? Become a friend of the show by starting your shopping at thetechnologyshow.com/shop. It's Tuesday, October the 1st, 2013. Ben TG's birthday. Woo-hoo. Live from Rural Pickens, South Carolina. I'm Matthew TG.
I'm Heath Mulliken.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 219. And yes, I'm back in studio.
Tony is back, and it's good to have you back.
Yeah. All right, here. Let's kind of start like we did last week, give a rundown. We've had some interviews, and they have books coming out, and we have other interviews coming, and they have books coming out. So give the rundown here.
All right, so a few weeks ago, we interviewed Matthew DePrez on intergenerational ministry. His new book is called Join Generations. You can get it absolutely free for now at joingenerations.com. All you got to do is enter your email address. They'll send you the book in a couple of weeks. We've got Mark Batterson coming on. His new book is called All In. I have purchased it through the Technology Show.
I've got it read.
You already read the whole thing?
I've read the whole thing, yeah. Wow, yeah.
That's impressive, Tony.
Yeah, well,
that's impressive.
Okay, so now I just need to be. I guess maybe I cheated. I listened to it all the way home.
Oh, gotcha.
On Saturday,
so you did not read it.
No, that counts.
No, doesn't count.
Well, here's what I do. Can I just say what I do? So I do the audio, but I bookmark it.
Yeah.
So I use Audible.com.
Right.
Every time there's something that I like, I bookmark it. Then I go back to the Kindle version. I buy the Kindle version as well, so I buy both. And then I go in and highlight those areas. Does that help me? Do I get more points for that?
I don't think so. Anyway, in the show notes, there'll be a link to get his new book. Next week, actually, we will have David Drury on. His new book is called Being Dad. You can go to beingdadbook.com and read more about it. And also, in the show notes will be our Amazon link. Please support the show and go buy that. And TG, why don't you tell everybody what they can do, how they can go and shop at Amazon?
Okay, yeah, I actually demoed this for everybody last week, but if you go to our website, you'll see a little picture there with the Amazon logo. You can click that or just go to thetechnologyshow.com/shop. It'll pop you right over to Amazon. It doesn't change a thing for you on the other end.
Right.
So everything costs the same. It's the same Amazon store, but we get a little kickback from that.
Yeah.
And I have a guy in my church who came to me and told me. Remember we found out last week that somebody bought the book from Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came and he's like, I bought a book using your
That's awesome.
It's like, yes.
Yeah.
We saw that book. That book earned us 40 cents. Yay!
Call and leave us a voicemail and tell us you bought a book from our link.
Yeah, but I mean, if you do that, especially as we get close to Christmas, I know, like for my wife and myself, it's been interesting to see over the past 5 years as shopping has transitioned for me completely away from brick and mortar retail stores to things online. Yeah. And if that's the way it's been for you, I'm telling you, once you do that, if you as a supporter of the show do that simple thing, it'd be huge for us. Very huge. So help us out.
And it's convenient. On this last trip, I always take my iPod Shuffle, so if it's raining, I always use that when I jog. Well, the adapter broke for it. I mean, I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to go out and try to find a store that might have that. Go to the Apple store in Greenville. I just got on Amazon, ordered it, and it'll be delivered to my door either today or tomorrow. So, and it does help us out. It gives us a little bit of revenue, and everything, any money that we get here goes right back into what we're doing. None of us get paid. We're certainly not getting rich at this. I'm telling you right now.
It's costing us.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Heath, we have some giveaways.
That's right. Today, we'll be playing our interview with Dave Beaver that we did a few weeks ago. He has a book, Transformation Equation. We're actually giving away not one, not two.
No.
But 3 copies of
we
this
should
book.
do info commercials.
One we're giving away if you're in the chat room right now live, we're going to be giving away one to chat room listeners, and then we're going to be giving away 2 that you'll be able to go to thetechnologyshow.com/giveaway. Once the show's over, you can enter like that, and we'll announce those 2 winners next week. It's not a very, very long book, but very powerful. Been reading it. I haven't quite finished it yet, but been reading through it and excited to get to our interview with Dave today.
Also, let me say this, that when we get to Mark Batterson's book, we'll be giving away at least 1 copy of that.
Yes.
A hard copy, may even do a Kindle, not quite sure at this point, but
Yep.
for sure we'll do a hard copy, and we'll have that to our winner. We'll have that shipped directly from Amazon to you, so be anticipating that as well.
Pretty much for the most part, if we have someone on here who has written a book, we typically give away.
Yeah, we try to give
Yeah.
at least 1, and
Yeah.
sometimes 2 copies.
Yeah.
All right, so this week, as Heath has already alluded to, we have our interview with Dave Beaver, and I'm not going to say much about that because in the recorded interview, Heath introduces him. So here you go.
Yeah, everybody go change your clothes really quick, okay?
Yeah.
Here we go. All right, wardrobe change.
Dave Beaver is the senior pastor at Crosslink Church in Grove City, Ohio. He is a contagious, enthusiastic communicator that can and will move people regardless of the environment. Dave has spoken to various size groups ranging from 12 to 22,000 across 38 of the 50 states as well as Canada. He's highly relational and capable of connecting with any group. He has seasoned experience with conferences, camps, universities, and corporations. He's a catalyst for change and inspiration. And he and his wife Jamie have 3 kids. Dave, it is so good to have you with us today, brother.
Welcome to the show.
Cool. Good to be here. Thanks.
Dave, I first met you on a youth mission trip in Cleveland, Ohio. So just kind of start off and tell everybody about your church planting journey in Cleveland.
Yeah, man. I tell people those are some of the hardest days in ministry, but they've also been some of the most fruitful and the greatest. I think they've been so impactful in helping shape me and my family and our journey. It's one of those things when God calls you to do something unthinkable and something that doesn't make a lot of sense. Hey, I want you to move your family to inner city Cleveland, Ohio, where you don't really fit the demographic of the community you're going to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I want you to give up literally everything. I want you to have no job and become homeless in a sense, to go on this journey with Jesus. And so the crazy thing, man, is I had people tell me, why would you do that to your family? Dave, this is a career suicide. This doesn't make any sense. And my only response was, and what it could be is, you're right, it makes no sense. But neither does walking on water or raising from the dead or feeding the 5,000 with just a few fish and loaves. None of that makes sense either. So I guess I better just go ahead and be obedient.
That's awesome.
I think people who live here in the Southeast, this economically, especially in the upstate of South Carolina, it's kind of a booming area, and you see industry and stuff moving in. But I had an opportunity. I grew up in Wisconsin, and just 2 years ago, we went from southern Wisconsin and through Michigan, and then Ohio, Cleveland, went through Erie, went through Buffalo, New York. And if you haven't been up there, and people don't realize that while here in the Southeast things are booming, that's an economically depressed area.
Absolutely.
And I would imagine that in terms of going to Cleveland, that was just another added layer of just a challenge in terms of ministering to the communities that you were ministering to.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the truth. In the world of church planting, which is, is really, it's not a new thing, but it's become this new kind of sexy, exciting thing that God calls everyone to now. And I was always amazed, nobody's lining up to run to places like Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
They're lining up to go to the booming, exciting marketplace where sustainability and financial sustainability.
Or suburbs.
Let's get there. But but it's not like there's not a lot of people lining up to race you to the hood.
So I understand that last year you helped Cypress Wesleyan launch a new campus in Dublin, Ohio. What was that process like, and what was your role?
Yeah. Church planting, there's Ken Murphy and Cypress Wesleyan Church wanted to look at starting their first satellite campus so that they could become, one church in many locations. They needed a church planter. The bottom line is my role was really to help them go from a whiteboard to reality, to bring the skills to the table to build the teams and build the systems to execute the plan, to really put the equipment together and things of that nature. We did do that. That campus is a little bit different. It is a campus. It is a video fed campus. It's really once I got that up and running, it was really pretty clear that was not the long-term stop for me.
Okay.
I tell people, man, as a preacher and a teacher and a leader,
sure.
Sunday mornings were really, we built the team so well it became boring. I pretty much made announcements and took an offering, and but it was cool. It was good at that system. Video systems work well for some. My personal preference, and this is no reflection on Cypress or any other church doing video venue. I think I learned in that process that I don't know that that's the best way for multiplication to occur. I think I probably lean more to the Dave Ferguson camp, where it's multiple campuses, but each campus has a live campus pastor that preaches the same message, the same content.
It's interesting you should say that, because one of the things, I had a conversation probably, 3 weeks ago, we got into this whole thing about, because if people aren't familiar with what you're talking about, the pastor is simulcast into, and the services are very regimented. They're timed, because the pastor's going to be speaking at 10:35, and so everything's got to be ready when he or she comes up on the big screen. And so if you're a site pastor, you're kind of responsibility for the administration, what's going on, but you're not the lead speaking pastor. And in that conversation, my observation was, we're just right on the front edge of this. We don't even know what's that going to look like in 10 years? What's it going to look like in 20 years? I mean, this is very new, and I would guess that you've run across at least one thing, and that is, part of this is some personalities are going to be built for it, some are not.
Yeah, I would agree. I think what it is, here's probably the challenge. Number one, some people are just better at communicating to the camera than others. But here's a dynamic that you lose. You lose the real time, the relevancy, I guess, of the moment. Mm-hmm. So if the Holy Spirit of God begins to work and move uniquely in that place, as the communicator, you're there via video. You don't know really what's going on, and so the thing about that is it kind of cramps a little bit. You really have to stick to the script, if you will.
Right.
And so there's some, again, I think there are some challenges with it. Probably the greater challenge, though, I think I don't know that it really lends itself to the developing of the next generation of leaders, teachers, preachers.
And again, I suspect what we're going to find is this is going to be a personality thing. So I would guess that with attenders, it's going to be the same thing. For some people, it's going to be their thing.
That's right.
For others, it's not, because the loss of the live dynamic. I can't read. The speaker's not able to read.
That's right.
The people over at that campus. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Now you just transitioned out of that, and now you're senior pastor at Crosslink. I know that wasn't necessarily something you were looking for, but how did that come about through some of your connections? Yeah,
it's great, man. God works in mysterious ways, and with Lead Strong and working with the denomination in our district. I've always sensed a call to the church at large, right? That I try to tell people, it's the 30,000-foot view. It's when I'm on an airplane flying at night, as I pass over city after city after city, I'm captured with this thought as I see every rooftop and every car, and I'm overwhelmed with this thought, who is going to reach them? Who's going to reach them? Who's going to? And I've almost felt like that is when the vision of ministry God has given me is the clearest, makes the most sense. And so how do I multiply? How do I reach people that reach people? And so it's kind of neat, man. I've been able to be.
That's good. How do you reach people that reach people?
Yeah. I think that's biblical.
There's this guy named Jesus. But, so as I've been able to do those things, I think what gives credibility to what we do around the country is how we lead from the front lines of the local church. We will be a church that are high relational, highly relevant, very real while reaching people. And so we want to lead by example, and kind of that Paul thing, come follow me as I follow Christ. was good. So yeah, just kind of neat how God threw us a curveball and said, it's time to go lead the way.
Because from your time at Cypress to now at Crosslink, like you guys, your family didn't even have to move.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing, man. My wife and children, they are, man, my kids refer to us as missionaries. My wife is, man, she's an incredible woman. She loves the Lord.
Yeah.
And she's the kind of person, she will pack it up. She'll move to a one-room closet if it's chasing after and following the will of God. And, you know, honestly, maybe from my own selfishness, I was so glad that God would call us to stay in Columbus, Central Ohio, live in the house where I love the fact that God would, I think, honor my wife and children with some stability, knowing that they would be willing to throw it all away to go chase Jesus. I love it, man.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of people may not know this, Dave. You are a huge mixed martial arts fan, and as a lot of people are, I'm more into professional wrestling, and that's been covered, well documented.
Oxymoron, professional wrestling.
So last year, you actually had a fight. You fought to raise money and awareness for the Sudanese orphanage that Sam Childers, Machine Gun Preacher, started. He had come to speak at Cypress. So. Yeah, how did all that happen? How do you decide?
Could you demonstrate?
They wanted you to choke me out. And,
I can't.
But talk about how.
Show us how you kick someone in the face. Heath, stand up. And so,
how devastating is a punch to the head, really?
I could sell it. I know. After watching.
Let me tell you, Dave. Now get this. Heath is so much into this part of you that he comes in studio one day. And goes, "Hey, Dave Beaver's going to be here at Southern Wesleyan University. He's a martial arts guy. We got to get him in studio." So that's the first thing I knew about you.
Yeah.
You were coming to SWU and you knew martial arts.
Oh, man. Not my love for Jesus.
You're right. Exactly. Exactly.
But doing that, talk about the doors that opened for you to share the gospel, because that really, man, that's where your heart is, and that's what birthed all of that.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that I mean, I've always been around athletics and competition. I love MMA. And somebody said, man, I would love to have the opportunity to do that. And someone said, if you want to do that, we can. And he worked for an organization. Long story short, I was planning on doing the fight. I love the reality of challenging yourself. Mixed martial arts, man, there's a lot of honor, integrity, character, discipline, absolute respect for your competition, because each one of those guys and gals knows what 8 to 10 weeks they put their body through mentally, physically, emotionally to be prepared to compete at the highest level. And it's funny, I tell people, like, everyone thinks it's just a bunch of big, tough, brawling guys. Man, these are just highly tuned athletes. They're skilled. And the reality is, God just gave me a great opportunity. When Sam Childers came, I had the opportunity to do my fight for their fight. I was able to raise $30,000 for orphanages in Africa. That was a huge win. Was able to get connected with guys that are in the top 10 in the UFC, which is the top of mixed martial arts. Right. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. Got connected with guys at Muscle Farm and began to train with professional athletes in the NFL. And so God just opened these incredible doors. And I know this for one purpose. Yeah. One purpose. Yeah. Every opportunity that's given, I believe, is given to make Jesus famous. Yeah. That at the end of the day, they would know his name, not my name. And that in the mix of this, whether it's fighting or, man, whatever it may be, it's not out there. You're not out there like trying to kill the guy. You're out there. It is a high competition. Two athletes get in that ring and compete. Yeah. But you know what? At the end of those fights, you see guys hugging each other and high-fiving. And I tell people this, man. This is the truth. Inside that cage is the purest, realest place on earth that I've ever been. Really? And the reason is there's no social media. There's no fake. There's no mask. You have to overcome yourself first before you can overcome your opponent. There's no gimmick. It's the real deal. And you will be exposed. Yeah. You know?
So in the cage, what you've done the training you've done in secret, all of that, like you said, it's exposed, whether you put your time in or not. And
I'm sitting here thinking, so you talked about when you first saw martial arts, mixed martial arts, that your thought was, man, I'd love to do that. My first thought was,
Oh man, I'd hate to do that.
Yeah.
So we are definitely wired differently here, Dave.
Yeah. Now, and through the training, I mean, you train with a lot of guys, and many of them have found Christ through that. And then talk a little bit about the actual fight, and then what happened post-fight normally doesn't happen. So tell our listeners about that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you train to win. You want to win. You want to win the fight. And man, I worked my butt off. I went from 225 pounds to the night I weighed in for my fight. I weighed in at 167. At 34 years old, I was running a 6-minute mile. I mean, I had great guys to train with, the best shape I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I tell people, nobody thinks I'm going to lose this fight. If you have a thought that you're going to lose, don't ever get in that cage.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I went in there, man, and I did well, man. I dominated the first round, started out dominating the second round. And when taking down my opponent, I got stuck. I got stuck in what's called a guillotine, and he hooked me. And it's a totally different ball game when you can't breathe.
Here again, maybe you could demonstrate it.
I think we should.
Let's see the guillotine.
I have the shot of the room. I'd love to do it. I'd love.
All right. So
this is how this works out here.
Here we go. This is the first on the technology show.
I'm going to shoot on you.
Here. I'm going to go into here. Right now I have his neck.
Yep.
Nice.
And as we start to squeeze up and pull down.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay, so that.
So,
How do you feel, Dee? Tell us about your experience just now.
I can see how that. And so, I have a lot of experience being unconscious.
So that was the hold that they got. The guy.
yeah. So my guy was a little taller. He was 6'1", crazy long arms,
wow.
and so. Yeah, he hooked me, and long story short, it didn't take long at all. When you hear the room start to get quiet and the room start to get dark, the natural response is you tap. You start to tap, and the reality is your body just almost immediately goes to a tap out because you're going into a panic mode, right?
Yeah.
Explain a tap out. Some people may not know.
Just to tap out, to submit, to say I give, I'm out, I'm done, And so I did. I tapped out. I lost. It was either tap out or pass out.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, man. I was overwhelmed that all of about 8 months of my life, it was over, and I lost. And I was overwhelmed. I was so disappointed in that loss that when I stood up, you could see it on my face. I'm high competitive. But here's the thing: is I started to walk out of that cage. I lost, get out of the way, and the announcer stopped me, and he said, no, hey, come back here. And even though I lost the fight, for 1 minute and 31 seconds, they interviewed me. And in that 1 minute and 31 seconds, I was able to share Christ, who I was, why I was there, and I got to plea with that arena that night that if they were in the local Columbus area looking for friendship or in life, whether they were, I remember saying, whether you're tapping in pain in life or you're raising your hand in victory, nice. We're here for you. It was crazy, man. This one guy, he's a law student. There was several people that contacted me. 20 some people contacted us. One guy in particular, he's a law student, and he said to me, he said, Dave, I love mixed martial arts. I train. He said, I'm a believer. I've gotten far from God. I've kind of slipped. And he said, when I got to the parking garage that night, and I sat in my truck, he said, I just broke down into tears. I recommitted my life to Christ in the truck that night. And I'll be honest with you, even though I lost the physical fight, I felt like a far more important fight was won. And that people could be exposed to a great love. Now, here's the thing I thought, too. The reality is, if I would have won that fight that night, raised my hand in victory, everyone could have said, man, look how gracious he is. He's happy. He's cheerful. He won the fight. But I think God had a plan to say, no, how gracious can you be in defeat?
Yeah.
How loving can you be on the heels of a loss? And so I really hope that people were able to see Jesus in that moment, not Dave Beaver.
So I understand you have a rematch coming up in December. So you can talk about that, and then going forward, how this fits into your ministry.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, man. Unfortunately, had a teammate that took his own life. In the world of mixed martial arts, where it is the fastest growing sport in the world, there's a lot of just amazing people. But there's also some folks that are just, they're lost. They live rough. They're far from God. And you know what? They're not the people that typically are going to get up and go, let me go check out church today. And I'm a big fan of be the church. We need to be where people are at. And I believe that God positioned me and put me in this place to be a missionary within the world and in the sport of mixed martial arts. You know, the neat thing is I was able to lead after that one night and after the death of a friend, over the course of the year, was able to see 49 young men between the ages of 18 and 35 come to know Christ as their Lord and Savior, to pray with them, to help some of them get plugged into churches. And, you know, there's a big network of them in Columbus, Ohio. And now as I'm senior pastoring a church in Columbus area, I know a place they can come and become disciples, you know. And so, yeah, man, it's exciting. Yep. It's funny. The plan to fight again is coming up. And it's pretty funny. I feel like the Lord is letting somebody else take care of all the fundraising aspect and those types of things. I'm not selling tickets this time. I'm letting someone else do that. But I feel like I got one more in me, and I feel like I left something on the table that night, and I'm. I want to tell them about Jesus with my hand raised in victory.
You want to be gracious in defeat and
in victory. Let me show the other side of this coin. So,
you recently founded the Lead Strong company and just started the Awaken tour. So, for people who don't know, what's the mission and vision of Lead Strong? And tell us about the tour, where all it's going to be heading.
Yeah. So Lead Strong, I just believe in leadership development. I believe we need to help others learn to lead stronger. But I believe the greatest way to lead strong is to be led strong of the Holy Spirit. The Bible tells us to stay in step with the Spirit. And so as we spiritually develop our lives to spiritual maturity, I believe that it allows us and empowers us to lead stronger, whether it's our families, our churches, our businesses, our nonprofits, our sports teams, our society as a whole. And so our goal through coaching, consulting, and itinerant preaching is to come along church planters and established churches that maybe they're stuck and they need to rethink where they're at in order to be real, relevant, relational while reaching the world, the Great Commission. And we come alongside that pastor for pastoral coaching. We come alongside that board and staff and leaders for consulting, mentoring, again, pointing back to our real-time experiences, and more than our wins, sometimes it's pointing back to our failures. And I think some of the greatest things we can help others in their moment is to learn from our failures and mistakes. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. The Awaken Tour, man, is all about be set free, be the hope, be awakened. That the lost shall be found, the found would become the hope of the world by being the church in action. That all mankind, every man, woman, and child would be awakened to spiritual things, and that God would do something in our nation like we in the human race have never seen before in this generation of people. Listen, God has been stirring my heart for a long time. I believe with every fiber of my existence in the awakening of the 21st century. Yeah. And I believe that God's called me to be a catalyst, a voice for that movement of his kingdom. And so as we do the Awaken Tour, the Ohio State University, here at SWU, everywhere we go, churches, universities, it is that one call to be awakened.
Yeah. It's interesting. We have had an ongoing discussion on this show of our approach to ministry, and so often it's such a negative approach that everything's awful. Let's all go home and just wait for the end to come.
Yeah,
right. It's depressing. I mean, who wants to get behind that movement, right?
Yeah,
right. So I love your language here in terms of just, hey, let's get about the work of the kingdom, and that there's hope for. I mean, the gospel is hope.
Yeah. And it kind of in that, man. So here's the thing. We're not trying to be the next. I'm not trying to be the next Billy Graham. I'm not trying to have the next great tour. I'm not trying to be the. Here's what we're trying to be. If the average church in America runs between 65 and 100 people, that's the majority of us. That's where the bulk of us is, in the trenches. And so I just believe. I had a pastor not too long ago. He said, "Dave, I was at a table full of churches. just struggling churches, small to medium churches. And this pastor said, Dave, why in the world do you spend time with guys like us? I said, because we, not guys like you, we, us, around this table, we represent the norm. There's only, I think, about 1,200 churches that run 2,000 or larger. And they have, listen, there's a lot of good, successful wins, but they got their own issues that none of us have to face, right?
Right.
And the bulk of us are 65 to 100. And I just believe that if there's going to be any real-time movement of God, it's going to be in every byway and nook and cranny of culture and community. And if we can empower the church to be the church,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Then revival can break out.
That's right.
You recently wrote a book entitled Transformation Equation. So how'd that book come about, and where can people pick it up?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So the book, Everything in Life has a scientific or mathematical equation. And the book is just, look, it's 35 pages. I said the content is what is important. If every believer, whether they're a preacher or a pastor or they bake cake for a living, every believer whose life's been changed by Christ is called to engage in personal evangelism. But we in the church have done such a bad job of how we've demonstrated and how we've tried to teach people to do personal evangelism that it has this negative kind of vibe. People avoid, you don't go knock on doors today and say, excuse me, sir, do you know if you died today, you'd go to heaven or hell?
Are you Jehovah's Witness?
Right? You don't do that. Right? They'd be like, dude, you knock on my porch, I'm going to knock on your forehead, right? Like, get off my porch. So the truth is, but here's the reality. So I just went through every person I've ever led to Christ. I began to see there's a pattern here. There's this system of reality, and some of it happens in a matter of weeks, but honestly, sometimes it's been a matter of years, 8, 9, 10 years.
Sure.
And so the transformation equation is this equation starting with relationships that leads us to transformation, and how every single believer, everywhere, every day, everyone has the power to be engaged in personal evangelism in a very normal, be normal people, very normal, very real time, whether they work in a bakery or a factory or whatever. So
very good.
Just a content to give the church maybe some practical, this is how you can change the world.
Yeah. So I think so many times and I believe Moses is next to Jesus, probably the greatest leader in the Bible. But I feel like so many times we adopt this Old Testament mindset of, well, I'm the leader. I'm gonna go up on the mountain, and when I get back, I'll tell y'all what to do. Yeah. And when you do that, you almost deny that Pentecost ever happened, because with Pentecost, God said, well, we don't need this mountain anymore. I'm going to talk to everybody. And so there's so many people in the church who are either, like you said, scared, or they don't know how to lead somebody. And then a lot of them think, well, that's the pastor's job. That's what he gets paid to do. Yeah. And they don't even understand the power of. Right.
Well, and you're getting into aspects of the living Word of God.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which is what it sounds like to me, what you're tapping into, this idea. Right. So I would look at your mixed martial arts, that here is an avenue for the gospel that I'm certainly not, they're not going to get it from me. The gospel's not going to get there through me. Sure. We just had Chad McCullum on, and he does stand-up. He used to do stand-up comedy. And we said, well, why'd you do that? And he said it was simple. It was an avenue into these comedy shops, and I could have a relationship with people.
Yeah, that's right.
And it gave me an opportunity to talk about Christ in real life.
Real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good, man. I think that's right on, dude. I just in the mix of it, it is the Great Commission is the call of every believer. Yeah, you know,
sure.
And I just think we got to do a better job of empowering, encouraging, and releasing our church to be. You know, it's
absolutely
good, man.
Right. Well, Dave, it's been awesome just to have you here. How can people contact you, follow you, find out more about your ministry, and support your ministry online?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reality is we encourage you guys, no matter who you are, nonprofit, church, business, whatever it may be, if we can assist you through Lead Strong, that website is leadstrongcompany.com. And we'd love just to connect. It's not like we do a consultation. It's free. It's not like you got to sign up for anything. We believe in just connecting with people and helping just figure out what that relationship would look like moving forward. I'm on social media like crazy. So there's this guy named Steven Sheets, and I will never forget sitting at a table. He said, "I can't believe you're not on Twitter."
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a Twitter account at that table, right?
Yeah.
And he created a monster. So
I remember that.
I'm a tweet machine. My wife was like, "Are you kidding me?" So long story short, man, at the Dave Beaver is Twitter, and I just love connecting with people there. It's funny. Let me just tell you a quick story about that. Somebody actually said to me, they said, "Dave, it's kind of arrogant that your Twitter handle was at the Dave Beaver." And I was like, dude, that's my name, right? Like I'm not, there might be some other ones, but I'm the only one I know. So I'm just saying that's my name. So Facebook, Twitter, leadstrongcompany.com. I'd love just to connect with you. I'd say to every pastor, every leader, anyone out there listening, if you feel like you're stuck right now, you feel like you're alone, you feel like you just don't know what to do next, man, please send me an email, pick up the phone, give us a call. Sometimes it's just simply one phone call away that God can open up the next chapter, the next step. And we want to be supportive because we believe in redemptive relationships. And I know that some of you today, you're the men, you're the women that are those who God is going to use to reach all those rooftops and all those cars as I look down flying from that airplane window. And so any way I can help you, any way I can pray for you, support you, I believe that that's what God has called us to do in the kingdom. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys.
Right.
Awesome,
Thank you,
man.
Dave.
Thanks a
we
lot.
appreciate it. And for all of our listeners out there, if Dave ever gets in studio again, you can email us on what holds you want to see Dave put on Heath.
My ear actually started ringing, and I thought, should I tap out? Should I let him know that I...
Let it be known, Heath did not tap.
I did not tap!
But give me a few seconds. We should have choked him on it.
I would have.
Well, blessings on you, Dave. Thank you for coming to the
Dave.
studio
Thanks,
today.
man.
Appreciate it.
Oh, man, I'm still recovering from that. And as I said before our interview with Dave, we do have 3 copies of his book to give away. And our very first winner in the chat room live today is Miss Sally Sheets. Sally Sheets, longtime listener, watcher of the show. We'll be getting your address from you and getting your copy of the book. If you still want to enter to win this week, you can go to thetechnologyshow.com/giveaway, and we'll be giving away 2 more copies of Dave's book, Transformation Equation.
That is correct.
All righty, let's keep the show on the tracks here and go to...
Download of the Week.
All right, this week our download of the week is Pressgram, and we're going to see if I'm all... There we go.
Oh, look at there.
Look, there's
getting a
Heath's
message.
beautiful children.
Yes, at a wrestling ring, ironically.
That's too bad.
So today's download of the week is Pressgram, which is only available on the iPhone in the Apple Store. But what it is essentially it's combining WordPress, a WordPress blog, and Instagram. Thus the name Pressgram. It's from John Saddington, who was on the show a while back. And what this does, the reason he did this is he was bothered by the fact that if you have Instagram, you relinquish your rights to your pictures. So he created this to allow bloggers and social media people. So there you go. So here I'm going to take a picture of myself.
Oh,
And then I can go through and I can pick different...
Purple hue there. There we are, yes.
That one, Paris. Milano. Spire. I keep getting noted. Doggone it. Anyway, let's go to Hollywood. That's obviously appropriate. And so then what you would do, you see my blog there. I can turn on my Facebook, turn on my Twitter, and I would just type in my blog post title. I can tag it. I can put a category, and it would upload this picture straight to my WordPress. My WordPress blog, my Facebook account, and Twitter. And again, does all the things that you can do with Instagram and you keep all the rights to your pictures. You own them, you keep them, and just a great thing to play around with. If you are an Instagram user, this may be an alternative. If you're on the Apple platform, maybe an alternative for you, like I said, to keep your stuff.
So you know how in preaching classes, and we're always told not to use inside jokes.
Right.
And we'd love to do them around here.
Yeah.
Umano! Go back about 2 episodes. And
Two episodes.
Umano, every time there's a gaff.
Yeah.
Umano! So I just say there, I am so impressed with the way you can share that on the screen.
Yeah, isn't that fun? There's a little iPhone.
Yeah, the last time
full screen.
When I'm having to do it, I can't really pay attention. So now when Heath was doing it, it was cool just sitting back and watching that.
Although as soon as it came up, I realized that my username for my blog was on there, so somebody's going to hack me. Wouldn't be the first time a blog got hacked.
All right. Now it's time for...
Oh, it is. Hold
They
on. I wasn't ready.
Said it.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
Well, I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
10 or 15 years ago, it was American evangelical congregations that seemed cutting edge. But now, to kids who grew up in that context, it seems a bit dated or disconnected. The same kind of feeling that a 90s movie gives them. Not that it's not a church, it just feels to them the way that 50s worship felt to their parents. So they leave. If they don't walk away from Christianity completely, they head to Rome or something similar. An article entitled Young Evangelicals Are Getting High, which highlights the migration of evangelical teens and young adults to high worship denominations such as Catholic and Lutheran. Source, The Christian Pundit.
I used to be skeptical that porn was as damaging a force as the headlines and David Cameron, who recently said it was, quote, corroding childhood, end quote, suggest. In the past, I'd even defended pornography in university debates, on TV and on radio. I claimed it was our freedom of choice to watch it and said it could actually help add to adult relationships. But what I saw during the making of the film changed my opinion of pornography forever. The true stories of boys I met whose lives had been totally taken over by porn not only moved me to tears, but also made me incredibly angry that this is happening to our children. Martin Dabney, former editor of Loaded magazine, which is known for its nudity. Source, Mail Online.
Brands like Apple and Google and Samsung are changing our behavior, how we buy, how we communicate with each other, even whether we speak with each other. They have literally changed the way we live our lives. Jess Frampton, Global Chief Executive at Interbrand, a company that creates and manages brand values. Source, The New York Times.
The Christian mission field is a magnet for sexual abusers. Baj Chavidajan, at Liberty University, a law professor who investigates abuse. Sarah Pullman Bailey reporting from Austin, Texas, where Baz addressed journalists this past Thursday. Source, RNS News. All right, I want to jump up to this top one. This is an interesting article, and it made me pull a book out of my library. This is a book I read 5 years ago, Presence-Centered Youth Ministry by Mike King. This book is about evangelicals who are leaving the church. He was one of them. He was raised in a Baptist denomination, went to Liberty University, and he talks about a church in Wheaton, Chicago, that it like was pushing 1,000 and has just sprung up. This was written in 2006, so had recently sprung up. It was high worship. The majority of attenders were young evangelicals, and kind of this longing for something that goes back to ancient roots.
Yes.
And let's be honest. Sometimes in the modern evangelical movement, with some of the practices that we do, we act as though, that the church today is way more relevant than it was, a century, 2-3 centuries ago.
Right.
And that somehow we understand how to do church better.
Yeah. Well, we've had this conversation before that it seems like today if a church is dying or failing, the automatic response is, well, you need to go to contemporary.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, to me, what happened to traditional worship, why it became dead and dated, wasn't the style. It was that traditional worship can be easy, meaning you can show up and say, hey, we're doing this hymn, and this hymn. The pianist and the organist already know how to play it. There was really no pre-planning, no prayer, nothing going into it. It's just thrown together at the last minute. What they're talking about here, a high church service could be thrown together, but there's this ceremony, this pomp to it. And I've had several kids that were in my youth group as our church transitioned, from a traditional church to contemporary church. There are a lot of them that are attending other churches now that are even more traditional and high church than our church used to be.
This is the point, that they're not going to traditional churches, they're going to high churches.
Yes,
now, this isn't a scientifically based, this is anecdotal, but I bring this book to people's attention. It's worth the read, and I think you're absolutely right. How many times have we seen where someone's thumbing through a hymn book 5 minutes before service, trying to pick out the hymns,
Right.
So it wasn't done. It wasn't excellent in terms of what that service demanded.
And that's what happened to Sunday night worship too. Sunday night worship was very much thrown together at the last minute, from the music to the message. A lot of times, especially if a pastor's trying to prepare 3 messages a week. I think this is a very interesting article, and I think we all need to take notice of it because, like I said, the trend is got to be contemporary, got to be contemporary, got to be contemporary. And my feeling is you got to be spirit-filled. You got to be spirit-led. Yeah. That's the important thing. And to me, that has nothing to do with style.
Yeah. I had a conversation back in 1994, and at the time I was afraid to tell other people I had the conversation, but it was 94, 95, 96, somewhere in there. I just got back from one of our youth conferences up at Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And in the conversation I had with this person, I said, I have a concern, and my concern is this, that we promote one style of worship. And here's what I know, that 20 years from now, that will become the dominant style in our worship, in our churches. What about those for who their personality doesn't fit that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I could name those people. And one of them who is in a very high worship service now, very liturgical. And we can't be all things to all people. I understand that. Right. I just think the article is worth a read, and that we have to remember that the church did exist before 1980.
Yeah.
It did.
And it was quite successful.
Yeah. All right. The second article is one that, Matthew, you sent me.
Yeah, I sent it to you after my wife sent it to me. It was tearing her up in a good way, and it was all over upon looking for it. It was all over the place on Facebook this past week. So, written by a guy who used to be an editor for
Loaded Magazine.
Yeah, for a girly magazine. Well, that's probably not the right term, but yeah. And
his borderline.
And basically his change of opinion on this isn't coming out of the church. This is a secular article.
Yep.
But I love it when we find these things. It's really interesting.
And all of his reaction is to a small study, but a study nonetheless, a scientifically based study that's coming out of the UK. They took 19 boys that they identified, young teenagers who have had already in their life a steady diet of pornography. Yeah. And it's very disturbing what's happening within the mind.
Right.
We've talked about this, the brain and its rewiring.
Yeah.
Also, their concern is this, that what young boys, their idea of what is normal in sexual behavior with a female is being formed by what they're seeing online. And girls are repulsed by it.
Yeah. And the realization that yes, this is an addiction. He gets to in that article too. That it is that we are creating. It's like So would we not be concerned if we knew our kids had easy access to cocaine? You know,
Yeah.
my 13-year-old has easy access to cocaine. You know, I keep it right in the drawer underneath the computer, and you know it's there, and anytime it can be gotten into.
It's the exact. I mean, if you just strip away all the external and you just study the brain, it is the same compulsion. It is the same signs, symptoms as any other addiction: nicotine, cocaine, alcohol, pornography. It's all the same.
It's an addiction that is, I don't know, like how do you weigh addiction and sin? But it's an addiction that is resulting in a change of behavior, a very massive change of behavior.
Yes.
In a way that I don't know. I don't, caffeine. All right.
You're right.
Yeah. Does it have the same behavioral changes?
Yeah. I got you.
So this is in a dangerous way. This is altering the behavior and the mind of people.
Is it any wonder? Somebody needs to go do this research. As pornography becomes more widespread, how that has affected divorce rates? And what is there any correlation in that?
Yeah.
Not that even in the marriage anyone's using pornography, but if you've used pornography through your teen years and then you get married, and even though you're not using pornography,
you're right. The
you're
worthiness of that study is there. How many would recognize that as the thing that ruined their relationship or marriage?
Right.
Two things I want to say. Number one is that the lead researcher on this was surprised by the results. So she goes into this thinking this idea of pornography and addiction is overblown, and she was blown away.
Comes away saying, okay.
She's saying this is a concern. Number two, to speak to what you were saying, Matthew, Michael Cusick, in his book, Surfing for God, which is all about addiction to internet pornography, he says this addiction is different than other addictions. He said, so let's take the person who's addicted to food. He said at some point, we'll use the interview we had with Dave Beaver, at some point, they have to tap out. Their stomach just can't hold anymore.
Yeah.
He said for the cocaine addict, they'll take it till they pass out or till their body physically just shuts down.
Right.
For the alcoholic, till they pass out. He said that is not the case with internet porn. You can click, you can click, you can click, you can click. He said this is why some men will start out in the evening, and he said when the sun comes up, they're still clicking.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, and this adrenaline, and so this dopamine is just it's a constant. And he said with other addictions, there is this physical saturation point where the body's at least going to shut it down.
Yeah.
He said that is not the case with this.
Yeah.
And he said it makes it that much more dangerous. Great article.
Yeah.
Check this out.
And this is here's the most shocking thing. I spent a summer in England a long time, about 20 years ago, and the culture there completely different than American culture as far as, I mean, just for example,
they don't even speak real English. I mean,
no.
It's a tragedy what they've done to them.
But they drive on the wrong side of the road. But like when I was over there were essentially 4 channels: BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC 4, and basically they said you don't watch BBC. The people in the church said you don't watch BBC 3 and 4 after 8 o'clock.
Wow.
It's like, because after 8 o'clock, there's nudity, there was sex, there was, homosexual programming. I mean, just right there, stuff that would be on HBO and Showtime late at night in America was on the regular channels.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say the fact that this is coming out of the UK is astonishing, because it has always seemed to me that culturally, their tolerance for stuff like that has been.
They've had the
higher.
position that it's not serious, that this isn't a problem.
Right.
Also, TG, I assume you read the part here where Martin Dabney says, in response in the country, now we have this new internet law where everyone's got to go through the same filters to protect the kids. But he said our research also showed this. It didn't take kids very long to figure out how to get around that. And then he does this. He says it is the responsibility of the parent to know what's going on. And
Yeah.
he puts a lot of blame on parents. They just don't know. They trust their kids, and he says, don't trust your kids.
Oh man, yeah, and make it an open conversation. I got to be honest. Like Heath, I would be terrified if I were you.
Oh, totally terrified.
I would be terrified if I were you, because I know you've got a son at home.
Yeah.
Who's in the first grade now?
Yeah, first grade.
I would be. It freaks me out. It really does. Like I would be just mortified about that. There are tools. There are things you can do. I think it has to become a conversation, and it's sad that it does. Like I can remember, and we all can from our childhood, the first conversations when all of a sudden this realization begins to enter your life, and I just feel like that's being pushed back further and further and further. It's having to be. But there are tools that you can use, and use those tools. It's not easy. It takes work. It takes training on, like, how to set up a untangle web filter is just been so useful in so many different areas.
Well, also, I know we're running long here, but what's the name? There's a router that we're keeping our eyes on that may hit the market.
Yeah, Skydog is the name of this router, and what they're trying to do is just make it dead simple for parents to say, here's a way to know these are the devices on the network. These devices have this amount of time, so you've got an hour a day where you can be on the internet or whatever it is, and you can set that. Okay, 2 hours for you and 30 minutes for you, whatever. And that it'll only use that amount of time, and then it shuts you down after that. It also does web filtering. It also sends and generates a report. Hugely helpful things that thankfully there are groups. I have been pursuing them. In about 2 weeks, I've got to contact them again. I'm trying to get them on the show. Not a Christian organization. Not focus on the family router. It's not that. It's just some people who say, hey, this is a thing, and we need to work with this. So
and give people more control over their routers.
Right.
And the thing, we're trying to do with our son is not pretend that this world does not exist. It's how do you live? How do you be in the world but not of the world?
Ooh, I
read
that somewhere.
Write that down.
I read that. Yeah.
You're
stealing a quote. I know you are.
It's not about like going off the grid,
right?
But if you're going to be on the grid, you've got that takes this level of responsibility that I'm terrified for parents. I'm terrified for the parents of families inside my church who I see stuff, and I just have to I constantly remind it is within you have every right to unannounced say, hey, let me see your phone. Hey, let me just, you are the parent.
Yeah.
Be a parent. Be the parent. Be the parent.
Yeah,
parent.
well, and I think that goes, so I feel like I should have that freedom with my 15-year-old. I feel like that 15-year-old should have that freedom with me.
Yes.
Come to my computer, see where I've been, stuff like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're not going to be able to discuss very at length the next two stories. Apple and Google now have surpassed Coca-Cola in terms of worth in the world and the culture. I think it's significant. I mean, I really do.
Well, when you look at the world, the globe, because you can go to a third world country. What did you see in Haiti plastered everywhere? Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola everywhere. Coca-Cola's everywhere. And it's interesting as I've listened to some like tech commentators be like, oh, how is Coca-Cola there? Get outside of the United States, dude.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Go somewhere else in the world.
Mexico, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Honduras. Yeah.
Go to those places and you tell me that Coke is not a major world player.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's significant, and it has replaced. Now notice, when I was growing up, it was Coca-Cola and McDonald's, food brands. Now it's tech brands.
Yeah.
And the impact that technology has had on our society and culture is huge. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because just the integration of this within the church, you can't ignore it anymore.
Right. And the show was started kind of as an experiment of how to use.
How do we
use the technology, and we've hoped to make ourselves the guinea pigs for all of that.
Yeah. Oh, we're guinea pigs, all right. Real quick, the last story. This is actually the grandson. This law professor is the grandson of Billy Graham.
Yes.
And he's basically saying that I heard former General Superintendent Dr. Virgil Mitchell say, and that is for any of us who are pointing the accusing finger at Catholic priests, we better just set up and take notice. And he is very vocal on the evangelical movement and things that it has covered up, and says it's time. And he says he's talking about mission agencies, where kids were sent to schools while their parents were here, their kids were in a boarding school, and some of the atrocities in some of these boarding schools. And he's not painting with not all of them, but he said some of these things are known and they've been covered up. And I saw him in just a little brief post in an interview where they say, well, aren't you kind of afraid about addressing this? And he said, listen, if it cost me my position, it cost me my position. Yeah. He said, I would think within the Church of Jesus Christ, the evangelical church, we would be about exposing, not covering up.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. All right, so let's talk about, as Heath said, what's coming up next week. We have David Drury, certainly a friend of the show, going to be talking to us about his book, Becoming Dad, on October the 22nd. We'll have Dr. Bob Weitzel. He'll discuss with us his book, The Healthy Church. On October the 29th, we're going to interview Evan Money. He is the producer of a motivational documentary, Word of Art. You'll see people like Mark Batterson in there, Zig Ziglar's son. And yes, I know Zig Ziglar is dead now, but he's brought some of those clips in, and Zig Ziglar's son speaks about his dad as a motivational speaker. There are other names in there that you will recognize. He's going to tell us about that and when the possible release of that is coming out. And then an interview all of us are looking forward to big time. Our interview with Mark Batterson and his book, All In.
Going back to that money interview, when I told you we needed more money for the show, that wasn't quite what I was thinking, but it'll still work.
Oh, well, we're trying. And a show that I enjoyed last year, we're going to do it again this year. We'll call it our Black Friday special show, where we're just going to recommend things. Some of those are things that we would like. Some of it's beyond that to say, hey, these are just great little gadgets or things that we recommend. Maybe books, it may be gadgets, stuff like that. And so we're going to do that on November the 19th. All right. One more time, Heath, on the giveaway there.
Transformation equation. Go to thetechnologyshow.com/giveaway and enter to win. We're giving away 2 copies, physical copies, of this book. Congrats to Sally Sheets, who won one in the chat room today. You never know what you might see in the chat room.
Heath, where can our listeners find you?
HeathMullican.com. I am the Heath Mullican everywhere. Twitter, Facebook. Follow me. You will follow me.
And I am MatthewTG.com.
All right. AKC64 at Twitter and Facebook. If you want to do further research on anything we talked about today or discussed, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, why don't you call us, leave us a voicemail at 3049 Theology. We may even play your comments on the air. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out.
Humano.
I was going to say.